All right, welcome to another episode of the Black Excellence Club. And today we have a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
How you doing? Good morning, Black Excellence Club. My name is Tanerra Willis. I am a CEO of Amazing Family Enterprises, doing business as the Amazing Corn, and I am also a 5-time self-published author. And I use my business to kind of inspire other people, motivate them to be the best version of themselves. And for us, that's being amazing. Growing up in the inner city in poverty with a lot of challenges, one of my big missions lately has been to show people like me that they could be amazing. We are all created to be amazing and do amazing things, and we should share our greatness with the world. So that's what I've been using my platform and my mission and my business to do.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, so let's start off with the first thing you mentioned. You said you're the CEO of
Amazing Family Enterprises.
Okay, what is that?
It is an online retail business, and also I do motivational speaking and workshops, hoping to, again, inspire people and motivate people to go from poverty to prosperity, to have better self-esteem, and to achieve and accomplish goals. And on our website, we have all kinds of books, children's products, and apparel that, again, inspires you to be your best version of yourself. So I feel like the world is very dark. There's a lot of mess out there. Everybody's using sex, violence, and drugs to sell their products, and I just want to be the light and be something positive on what's going on right now.
Okay, and what made you decide to create that platform?
It kind of happened organically. My son created a story when he was 7. He's now 11, and I thought the story was so amazing that it was a full book. It was like from beginning to end, very animated, very detailed, very exciting. And I'm like, this is a book. We should write a book. So we dragged our feet a little bit about during that process, and then we received a book as a gift from his grandmother, and it was another black young male who had published the book, and it helped light a fire under me to say, okay, if he could do it, we can do it. So that helped reignite that passion and that dream to publish his book. But in that process, you know, my son would see, he is in a predominantly white neighborhood, predominantly white school. And as we were developing the characters, I would ask him, like, well, what does he look like? And what does his hair look like? And what does his eyes look like? And he really was pointing out characteristics of white boys. And I'm like, oh no, you need to know that you're amazing. You can do amazing things. You can be seen as great. You can be someone that inspires other people. So of course we modeled the character after him. So once the book was published, I wanted to make sure I had a platform to market and sell the book of my own, and not let companies like Amazon, which are great, get all of my money. So we created a website and a business organically after publishing his book. And it just was like, okay, I originally wanted to show my son how amazing he is, but let's show other people, you know, that we can do it. We started from scratch. We didn't know much. We got mentors. We messed up along the way, but we accomplished our goals and have accomplished many more since then. So we've been trying to use our transparent story and journey to inspire other people to do the same.
Okay, that's awesome. And you say you have multiple books that you've written.
Yeah, so first was The Amazing Redhead's First Adventure, which was my son's children's book. And we published it, I believe, in February of 2020, which was the beginning of COVID. And then, like, shortly after, we were all stuck in our homes. He's been in a bilingual program since pre-K. And again, he's in 6th grade now, so he speaks very fluent Spanish. So before the schools were able to figure out what they can do as far as curriculum and assignments for the kids, I had him translate a page a day in Spanish. So we had that same children's book in a Spanish format that he translated himself, and then it was edited by his teachers. And then we have a coloring book. And in that coloring book, we highlight the story that we wrote, but we also made sure we showed kids in different diverse, activities to show them you can be amazing just how you are. So we highlight ballerinas and athletes, and we also highlight dancers and coders to show people that you could be amazing and not do the traditional things that other people do. And then my personal memoir, which is called Memoirs of Almost Barren Women, it shares my story of infertility and my struggle to become a mom. And we brought in 5 other amazing women who were courageous enough to kind of shed light on their reproductive health challenges and their journeys to become mothers, to kind of inspire all the women that are going through it, infertility is affecting 1 in 8 families right now. So it's very broad, but yet most of us are suffering in silence and shame. And that was my experience when I talked to other women. No one would talk about it. I didn't have anyone to talk about it when I went through it. And it caused a lot of isolation and guilt and embarrassment. And after a while, when I learned how prevalent it was, I'm like, why am I hiding this? Why am I scared to tell people this? And then every time I would tell someone, or I would tell the story, someone in the room would say, me too. And sometimes they would cry, and their story would be even more challenging than mine, but they didn't have anyone to go to or talk to. So that's what that book seeks to do, to fill that void in literature, to share that we do not have to be isolated. We don't have to be ashamed and embarrassed, but we should support one another, encourage one another, and give people hope. So we had that book. And lastly, I have Love Letters to My Girls, which is an anthology for brown and black girls ages 9 to 26 that kind of wants to embrace and show them that you don't have to have fear, you don't have to have doubt, you can be brave and courageous. So it's 118 different love letters on different topics to inspire young women in different areas and topics.
Okay, nice. So what was the process of writing first a children's book and then a memoir?
Well,
what's the writing process?
So first I tell everybody, just write the manuscript. Don't worry about the technical pieces. Don't worry about if you have everything correct. Don't worry about the editing. Write from a place of who your audience is and what message you're trying to get across. So if you're trying to inspire someone, if you're trying to make someone laugh, if you're trying to connect with someone, write from that genuine, authentic place to get a really good, hearty manuscript. And then once the manuscript is complete, you want to tap in some people. Initially, you want to do things like get advanced readers or beta readers who would kind of read it and kind of check in with you and say, hey, well, what about this? And what about that? So particularly, like I said, my son wrote the book, and the book initially had this young boy who was 9. We made the character 9 years old on the beach by himself. And the mom was like, well, who is he with? So we had to go back and add that. So our advanced readers and beta readers helped us see gaps that we didn't see. So that's definitely a good place to do it. And I would do that before you get an editor, because then the editor will go ahead and get with all the technical pieces and refine it and make sure all of your thoughts are complete and make sure there's no typos and the grammar is correct and the flow is good. So I would say manuscript, beta readers, editor, then you'll go through the things like illustrators and finding who you're going to publish with, if you're going to do traditional publishing or self-publishing, and then so on and so forth.
Okay, so where would someone find the beta readers?
Beta readers, I always say you want to think about who your audience is. So our book was a fiction, action, and adventure tale. So some people, we made sure we went to children's camps, children's daycares, we went to mothers, we went to teachers, and we also went to other people who we know had wrote children's books. So someone who knows about your genre that you're writing for and who would give an audience, who would give an authentic response. So when we went to the children's camp, we went with it literally in a binder like this. It wasn't a full book. Okay. That was how our manuscript looked when we went to read it. And we got to see what they reacted to, what they did not react to, what they got excited about, what they questioned. And then we asked questions at the end. So what do you think? And what was missing? And what excited you most? What did you like? What did you not like? And that helps refine your story as well.
Okay. And what about the editor process? Like, where would you direct someone to find an editor?
There's tons of people. If you know someone who's done it before in your field, I would start with that, because I feel like you should have to edit it a few times, because no matter how many times you look at a book, you're always going to find errors and typos and grammar things. But you can go on websites like Fiverr and Behance and things like that to find it. You can go with local publishers to do editors. And if you go on websites like Amazon and I'm blanking on the one I'm actually using right now, which is crazy, but bookbaby.com. So if you go with some of the self-publishing companies, they'll have lists and hyperlinks and resources for things like that. And I also have on my website 21 questions to ask an editor, because if you're a novice and you don't know, you're kind of wet behind the ears, like what to ask to make sure they're you. I would interview several people to make sure they're a good fit, because all editors are not good fits. And I list 21 questions you should ask an editor to make sure they fit what you're looking for. Because you don't want anyone to take your story and make it theirs. You want it to stay true to yourself. So sometimes you got to be careful with that. Some editors are big-headed and think they know everything, and they want to make your story their story. So you want to be careful with that.
Okay. So how did you publish the first book?
Yeah, so we published through Amazon. It was formerly known KDP, but it's Amazon self-publishing. And again, after I went through the editing process and illustration process, I just went on there and I downloaded all of their how-to books. I looked at YouTubes, I read the hyperlinks, and we were able to self-publish by ourselves.
Okay. So is it digital or is it a paperback?
So we have an ebook and we do have a paperback version as well.
Okay, so how did you get the paperback version? Like, how did you source out printers?
Yeah. So, and I need to backtrack because I said the first person I went to was Amazon. Actually, the first company we went through was called Book Baby Publishing, and that was our original one. Then we went to Amazon, but they do the printing. So they have something called print on demand, which means they'll only print as many copies that are ordered. So you don't have to worry about having bulk orders in your home or office or store. You can order, if you do pre-orders and you know you got 100 pre-orders, you can order maybe 125 just to have a few on hand, things of that sort. Or if you have your own e-commerce site like myself, I just keep a certain quantity on hand just in case I'm ever at have an event or things like that. I keep 40 to 50 copies on hand for things like that. But they will literally print anywhere from 1 to 1,000 copies or more based on what you need.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's talk about the second book that you wrote. What's that one called? Titled?
Yeah, so I have it across the room. But so I think so. Probably Love Letters to My Girls is the second one. That is a compilation. I'm not the publisher for that one. I'm just one of the contributing writers, and that's a book. Like I said, called Love Letters to My Girls, and it just really connects with the hearts and minds of young brown and black women, because the media, the world, other races, they depict us as less valuable, less meaningful, deserving less. We're devalued. We're the lowest paid. We're the most threatened, race in society. But their book seeks to kind of close that void. And like I said, we all wrote from our own personal testimony. So like for my story, I wrote about our value. And I have a girlfriend who went through her sister being killed and losing her father shortly after. So she wrote about her depression and things like that. But there's all different topics. One of my favorite stories in the book is one of the writers wrote about how she used to play in the mud. And her mom used to fuss at her and her friends used to tease her. And now she's like a master pottery person. And where people saw that as different and where we need to embrace people, because she really wasn't harming anybody. She was minding her business. She talked about how she kept it. She didn't mess up the area. She was, kept it refined to the place where she was, but she was building and creating, but no one knew. But people teased her, saw it as a nuisance or dirty, or why are you playing in the dirt? And now she does so much, these amazing pottery. So we have to celebrate each other's differences and be okay with people being unique. Other people were playing with dolls. She wanted to play in mud. Who knew she had that gift, So that's one of my favorite stories in the book.
All right. That's awesome. And so with that one, you said you was just a
contributing author. So it's an anthology.
Contributing author.
It's actually 118 different black women, and we call them powerhouse black women because it's all amazing women doing great things, and most of their bios could be found in a book or hyperlinks if you want to connect with them. People who have nonprofit organizations, people who own businesses, publishing companies, magazine owners, all writing a letter that spoke to our heart. That's something that we had to grow through and overcome to kind of connect with other women. And that's the feedback we're getting. Right now, our book is being used in like book clubs, in youth groups, in prisons, in drug rehab centers. And it's basically, they take a letter, they read it, and they have topics and discussions about it. So it's a really good book to kind of have some difficult conversations that you may not be able to start or know how to start. And that's what I tell moms who buy it for their daughters. Because they're like, I want my daughter to read this. I'm like, no, read it with them. So you guys can have some conversations that may be a little bit broader than our surface conversations or things that we may be uncomfortable talking about. Because it talks about sex. It talks about your self-worth. It talks about having value. It talks about honoring yourself. It talks about being fearless and not doubting yourself. So those are good conversations to have with young women.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's the second book, right? What's the third book?
My most recent book is one of my passion projects, and that's the Memoirs of Almost Barren Women. And again, I've gotten nothing but great feedback from that. The only feedback I always say was the constructive criticism. They wanted it to be longer. They wanted to know more of our stories because a lot of women are not hearing these stories. So that book, like I said, has 6 testimonies, and it has a range of women in there. And I was deliberate in making sure that the women in the book look like the world. So we have black women, we have white women, we have single women, we have married women, and we have women who have had kids and some who still are on that journey, because everybody in infertility, unfortunately, doesn't get to be a mother biologically. Some have to foster, some have to adopt, some may just be mentors and coaches and things like that, community nurturing and mothering in the community instead of having kids. One of the women in the book does like community outreach and evangelism, and she goes to other countries and mothers of the women, something like Oprah does, because she truly believes she was born to be a mother, but unfortunately she hasn't been able to birth kids. So we kind of share some of those stories to say you don't have to lose your desire to nurture and mother and love and influence someone's life positively. You can mother in another way.
That's beautiful. So how does the business construct come with a book? Like, because you said there's multiple people writing in the book, so how does that get broken down?
So the book,
to
I
each
own the rights
person?
to the books. The contributing authors get to buy copies at a severely discounted rate, and then they can sell it at the normal retail price to get their profit. And that's what my contributing authors do. They usually buy it in bulk, and when they go to their events or around their family or their churches, then they just sell it at their own. So then it's not a lot of, I don't have to do payouts or things like that or manage books. So I just let them buy it at the same cost, actually the lower cost than what a book store would buy it at, for their contribution to the book.
All right. And how did you come up with that model? Is that something that was recommended?
Actually,
or
because I did the anthology with a publisher called Sharita Witherspoon, and she, through her anthology, we all actually had to pay a fee to be in the book, because there is a cost incurred with writing. Like, you have to pay for editors, publishers, printing, stocking, advertising, all of those things. So we all had to pay a fee to be in the book. And then we were given that same option to be able to buy the book at discounted cost, but then sell it at retail. But because my book was smaller contributing, and it was something that I wanted to do, I didn't want the contributing author to have to pay, because again, they're already being vulnerable, sharing their stories and welcoming us into their personal business. So I didn't charge them to do it. I did it on my own and then let them do the opposite. So I got some of my model from her.
Okay. And what would you say is the upfront cost for starting a book?
Oh, it varies.
Up to publishing.
I think it varies. So with our first book, we spent almost $2,000, I would say, for the first children's books. And that was through Book Baby Book Publishing. But through Amazon, I would say I spent less than $1,000 just working with the illustrator. So I definitely think on who you go through. For me, Book Baby was the easiest for someone knowing nothing, being very, novice with it, because they do a lot more than Amazon. For Amazon, you almost do everything on your own, and that's why they don't charge you at all. They do the editing. Book Baby, they will do the formatting and things like that. Amazon doesn't do any of that. Your book your manuscript has to be ready to be uploaded. Your illustrations have to be ready to be uploaded, things like that. So they're a lot cheaper. You're really just paying for the cost of print with Amazon, and if you want to pay for advertising. So if you know someone who's a great editor, you know someone who's a great illustrator, someone who can format, you can almost pay nothing. You're just going to pay for printing. But if you don't know someone and you have to outsource that through different contractors, then it's going to depend on your contracting fee. And for me, you don't want to cheat on those things because you want it to look good. And I can show you a quick example. All right. So I have the first 2 books that we did. And this is the first one, which we're still proud of, but it shows that there were some things like with illustrating and formatting that we had to grow. And then you look at this one that looks more commercial and, ready to sell, more, eye-catching, more cartoony, where this one was a little bit like, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say anything negative because we love it.
It's a work in progress.
It's beginning and then the next step, like we grew. So I think like don't worry about being perfect. I think a lot of people don't follow their dreams because they don't know how and they don't know who and they don't have support and they want it to be perfect. Just do it and grow along the way.
Yeah, most definitely. I can agree to that. All right, so that sums up all the author stuff, right? I think. Any other books out there?
No, not. We're working on a book. I would like to share that. We're working on a project where we're going to be highlighting different careers by different people because I feel like diversity and inclusion sometimes is a catchphrase and not a lifestyle. So our next book is going to be a children's book. It's going to highlight people in different careers, but with different races, different sexes, different disabilities. Because we do have doctors in wheelchairs, we do have swimmers who are amputees, we do have scientists who are Black, and we do have farmers who are Indian, and we see stereotypical people in different roles where we don't celebrate them. Like our next book will have an albino judge in there. We want to stop making it a surprise when we see people in these different races and disabilities and conditions. Surprise. You know, I remember I was a nurse manager. And a lot of times people would come in and be like, can I speak with the boss? Or I speak with the manager? And I'd be like, it's me. And I would always get this, when I was like, when I used to present to CEOs in my organization, they would be looking for the presenter. And I'm like, it's me. I want us to stop being surprised on a real juvenile level. I remember being in the mall and you see a little white kid, see a tall Black woman and they bust out crying because they've only been in their community and they've never seen a Black person or, and they cry. And I even remember being with my sisters and they see little persons and they tease them and I had to fuss them out like, you don't do that. But because it's not common and foreign, it's foreign and it's not celebrated and we're not introduced to it, we see that person as an outcast or different or not good enough. So our next project will be to celebrate diversity, highlight inclusion, and also to motivate people so people can see positive self-imagery. Just how I am, I could be amazing. So that's what our next project will be.
Right. That sounds good. Do you have a estimated date when that will be ready?
Funny. My husband just asked me that yesterday, so I don't. I would love for it to be available for Christmas because, of course, as a business owner, you want holiday products available. But that's very ambitious. We have just approved our sketches and they're in the color phase. We're still working on our manuscript. So we're going to do a children's picture book, an activity book, because we want to do activities that stimulate the brain to make it part of, how you embed it into our minds. And I also want to create a family game. So I know the children's book and the activity book could probably be done within the next month or two. The game is going to take a little longer. The game is going to be called Dream Builders, just because we want to build dreams in our kids. I do mentoring, and a lot of times I'm finding these kids don't have dreams anymore. When I was a kid, I dreamed of everything, and it's been like pulling, trying to get people to say what they want to be and who they want their future to be, other than an Instagram model or a social media influencer or a rapper. I'm like, you have to dream bigger than that, or not that those things are bad, but that's not all we could be.
Right. So what would be the age range for this book?
I would definitely say my target audience for the children's picture books would be between 5 and 10. And the game is going to be a family game. My son is 11 and we still play games and things like that. So it creates conversations and, interactions and quality time that is so meaningful, where we're kind of getting away from that with social media and video games. I know my son, if he could, he would be in the video game 24/7 if I allowed him.
Right.
We make sure we do family time and outside time, and I try to kind of support that model, because that was a model that helped me flourish as a youth. So, the game will be for families, all ages.
Right. And what was the age range for the first children's book?
I would say for the picture book, 5 to 10, but of course, a parent can read it at any age. I have people who buy it for their babies. We know that reading, being introduced to reading and being read to, stimulates your brain, helps you with your cognition, with your vocabulary. So definitely read it. But the coloring book as young as 1. If you can hold a crayon, and I would say up to ages 10.
Okay. Think I might get some of those for
Like
Christmas
it. And
presents.
actually, that's one of the ways I advertise. I'm like,
That
it's a
sounds
great
good.
stocking stuffer. You can throw it in the box with another gift.
Yeah.
You can add a gift card to it. It is an amazing children's gift. And they need to see black superheroes. And in the book, we have Indian people, we have black people, we have Muslim people. I make sure when you open our pages, a large part of the population will see themselves in some aspect in the book.
Okay. That's awesome. So where can that first book be found before we move
So
on?
the first book, which is this one, you want to go to either Amazon or...
They call it the children's book.
Amazon or Book Baby. Any of our other books we have on hand in our store at theamazingcorner.com. But again, they're also available on Amazon.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk a bit about your background. Like your professional background.
I am a certified pediatric registered nurse by trade and a CPR instructor. That kind of helped catapult me, again, from poverty to prosperity. Nursing is a career that will definitely give you some financial stability if you manage your funds well. So that's kind of where I started as a medical assistant and worked my way through college. I went to college part-time as I was a medical assistant to get my nursing degree. After I got my associate's degree in nursing, I went on to get my bachelor's degree in nursing. I took some master's classes. I didn't finish my master's program yet, and it kind of still pokes at me every now and then. And I'm also got a certification in pediatrics, so I'm certified as a pediatric nurse, an expert in that field.
Okay, so what made you want to get into nursing?
I've always been wanting to do something where I either nurtured or cared for people or supported the, I don't want to say the outcasts, like the little people. I feel like, a lot of time, like even Hispanic people or people who speak different languages or have disabilities are not supported and loved and nurtured. So I've always wanted to do something like that. So I either always wanted to be a nurse, a doctor, or a teacher as a youth. I remember walking to school and having those thoughts, as well as I always wanted to be an author. I always wanted to write books to inspire people. I remember thinking of that as a youth, walking alone to school. So I just always wanted to do something in the nurturing and caring field.
Okay, that's awesome. It's been a while now. I can't remember exactly what you said at the beginning. But you said you're an author. You said you're a nurse. What am I missing? I think you said one more thing that we haven't spoken about yet.
I own my own business. I have some real estate investments with my husband.
Okay, I think that's the one that we haven't spoken about, real estate. So I've heard a bit of it from your husband, so I just want to hear your side of the story now, because, sometimes it varies.
Actually, that's one of the things I believe we bonded on, because Kay and I were friends first, and we would just hang out and talk about our dreams and our goals. He was, I think, fresh out of college, working at Enterprise as a manager, and I was in nursing school, working as a medical assistant. But one of my things I knew I wanted to do with my money out of nursing school was to invest. And he came from a background of investing with his dad, was a real estate investor and owned properties. So I think that was one of his kind of like, she might be one of the ones. So we kind of connected through that. I always wanted to rehab homes. So that's when the opportunity came our way early in our marriage, and that's when we bought our first property.
Okay. And do you still own that property now, or did you sell it?
We have four properties outside of our main home.
Okay. And those are all rented?
Yeah, we all have, thank God. We've been very blessed. I know some renters have horror stories of being landlords. We've been very fortunate that either we bought the home with someone in it and they're still there, or shortly after we rehabbed the home, we were able to get reliable renters and where we get consistent income and not a lot of incurred damages and things of that sort.
Okay. That's nice. What would you say that process was like to first take the leap and buy one house and then do it multiple times?
So our first home we bought with a mortgage or traditional business loan. So once we got it, we just made sure we poured all of our extra income. After we saved up about enough to make sure we had money for any damages or repairs that we needed to make. Having about 6 months of income is very important, just in case your property is left vacant or you have any kind of unforeseen damages. You want to make sure you have some type of nest egg or support to kind of cover those. But then after that, we made sure we doubled up on the payments and put all of our extra money into the payments to get out of that debt of owning that property. and then we just continue to save until we can get another property. So most of our properties have been in the inner city, so those properties are usually not too expensive. So we've been able to pay cash. The first two properties we did loans, but ever since then we pay cash for our properties, and that kind of puts us on a slower trajectory of buying more, because we're not doing, the debt. Not that it's bad, but it's just not. We chosen that's not for us. We live with very little debt in our household.
Okay. Is there anything we haven't spoken about that you'd like to discuss?
I guess I would say maybe my volunteerism and philanthropy. Like I said, I do mentoring and coaching. I also, through my business, host an annual health fair. And because I have the nursing background, because I'm a black woman, and unfortunately the black community is top of the list for a lot of chronic diseases, from diabetes, heart disease, stroke, mental illness, and a lot of it is because we don't have the resources, we don't have the education, and some generational practices and behaviors that are kind of hard to break sometimes. So I try to make sure I bring resources to my community, and bring in non-traditional resources that we don't always see. I make sure there's grief counselors there, mental health support there, infertility resources there, but also make it fun. So we do have free fitness instruction, we have free giveaways, we have raffles, we have music, free food and snacks, and the object is just to get the people to come out, have fun, learn more about what they need or what they may need in the future, because you don't want to always wait till you need health resources. So we do that. In the first year we had one fitness instructor, 3 vendors, and maybe 40 participants. Last year was our second year. This year, 2022, was our second year, and we had 3 fitness instructors, 33 vendors, and over 300 attendees, and I'm hoping to grow it in 2023. And also it gives back to small business owners to let the vendors come out and connect with the community and grow their businesses and share what they're doing in the community. So it's kind of like, let me help small business owners like me, but also help my community. And I know how important health is in working out, but I do not enjoy it. And sometimes I lack discipline and consistency. So it's another jump start. We do it mid-year. A lot of people are hitting health goals at the beginning of the year. You have a strong month and you kind of wean off. So we do it in June to say, okay, let's jump start that, because healthcare should be an everyday discipline and behavior. So it's a mid-year, we'll have fun and kind of get people back into being mindful of their health and mental and physical health.
That's awesome, because, I wish I had something like that in Bermuda.
That means you got to fill the void.
That'll be a nice little a jump start,
I know you have clothing line.
I think about it.
Podcast, and that's something else. We had TV stations this year, radio stations, and it was free advertising. It was so fun when I watched back on the video. All these small businesses got free advertising because the radio station walked around to each of the businesses, talked about what they had. They made collaborations and future connections and networking opportunities. So it's really a good community outreach event, but it's tons of fun. I hate working out with boring music, and it distracts you doing it in a group and with some lit music and a cool DJ hyping you up. So it's a lot of big energy. So if you're around in June, come through. It's free.
Okay. So what other work have you been doing in the community?
So I am a vice president of a nonprofit organization called Journey Unveil, and Journey Unveil seeks to mentor youth with sustainable practices to kind of help them overcome systemic barriers, poverty, and different challenges. It's in the city where I come from, which is called Chester, Pennsylvania. It's a city still poverty-stricken, violence-stricken, poor school systems, poor resources. So we go back and meet with these kids at least once a month, and we talk about different topics. We bring in different resources and influencers. We have them travel to places. Some of these people never go to beaches and never go to museums, so we take them to places like that. And we coach on different things, from self-esteem to finances to filling out applications and doing interviews, and also to show them a visual representation of someone who was born in poverty, born to a teenage mother, born to a drug dealer father, single mother, teenage pregnancies, different things. We show our stories to kind of help them say, we understand your truth. It doesn't change it, but you can overcome it and exceed expectations. So we're kind of trying to build more successful young black women in the community. So that's something I've been a part of the past 3 years. Excuse me.
Okay, that's awesome. It's definitely needed as well. Is there anything else that we haven't covered?
Oh, I feel like I've been talking about
I
me,
think we
so
touched on it.
feels a little vain.
All right. So I'll just go into the closing questions now. The first one is, what advice would you give to 18-year-old you about what you're doing now?
So I'm going to answer your question, but I do want to share something. I just went to a women's retreat, so I would recommend any woman to go to a retreat. And I talked to another friend of mine who's also a business owner, and she went to a retreat on her own. Don't worry about going with no girls, no sisters. You want to be able to go and be authentic and vulnerable. And that's what I just experienced last weekend. It was my first women's retreat. I've been on plenty of vacations, but never on a retreat. It was so cleansing. It was so empowering. It was so motivational. So that's just my little ask for a plug. But during that retreat, they talked about why are we still talking to the old us, the little us. We have overcome that. We are past that. And we need to speak to the future us. And I really embrace that, because you do sometimes think about, if I would have known this then, if I would have had this then, if I would have, my husband even says it all the time about my son. Like, he's been exposed to so many things where we should kind of forget about what we didn't know and celebrate what we do know and what trajectory we are on. But I would tell 18-year-old me to be fearless, to do it afraid, do it alone, and don't wait. I feel like there was a lot of things I waited to do because I was afraid. I didn't have the knowledge or experience. I didn't have the support. I thought I didn't have the funding. And all of those things I went to do anyway. So it was like, why did I wait? Like, I didn't go to college right out of high school. I didn't write the books until I was in my 30s and 40s. I didn't start the business until I was in my 40s. And these are things I've always wanted to do. My memoir was 10 years in the making before I published it. Again, afraid to be transparent, afraid to be vulnerable, afraid to tell my truths because I'm protecting other people's truths. But then after, you wait all that time, and where I could have did these things 10 years ago, and where would I have been? So I would tell 18-year-old me, don't wait, don't be afraid, do it anyway.
All right. What advice would you give to our listeners on entrepreneurship?
Kind of on the same platform. I would say get a mentor. Some people will be your mentor for free. Some people will charge you. It's still worth it. You're investing in you. And I would say start small, do something every day if you can to build towards your goal, and be authentic. I feel like, and I have fallen into that trap as well. A lot of times we're trying to mirror what we see on social media. We're trying to mirror our now to someone's 10 years. You see somebody successful and you want it for you now, but you don't see all the work they did, all of the troubles they went through, all the challenges they had to overcome. So make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And just go for it. I would say be courageous and be authentic.
All right. What's next for you and your business?
The projects I kind of talked about, and right now I'm working on, because I used to be super heavy on social media, making sure I post 3 to 5 times a day, doing lives, doing interviews. And in the last few months, I'm like, okay, this is pulling away from my business goals. And overall, it's not about the fame. It's not about the money. Yes, you want the money if you're doing the work. But my initial goal, and God keeps reminding me, I keep reminding myself, was to inspire and motivate people. So I'm working on workshops and shopping them to different schools and organizations to kind of inspire more people and pull more people up. So that's what's next in my entrepreneurial journey.
All right. What would you say to your future self 5 years from now?
God, congratulations. And I would say not to be as hard on yourself and have fun. You did the work. Now it's time to have fun.
All right. Most definitely. And last question is, where do you see yourself and your business in 5 years' time?
5 years from now, I see myself as a sought-after speaker. I see myself who has influenced and impact people to grow. I see someone who not only is influenced strangers, but influencing my family and my local community, and also in planting seeds for my son to be an entrepreneur in his own right, with great self-esteem, great ethics, great philanthropy, great humanistic characteristics and behavior. And I also see myself as intentional, someone who makes sure I protect my peace, I protect my family life, I protect my finances.
Okay. Awesome. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I want to know, with such a beautiful name, with such a beautiful meaning, I guess, why isn't that the name of your clothing line? I think that is an amazing name that should be celebrated and highlighted.
I never even thought about that, you know?
Because I'm sure everybody asks, like,
Security.
what's the meaning, right? Of your clothing
Right,
line.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody asks me, like, what does be amazing mean? For me, being amazing means being the best version of yourself. Not being like me, not being like anybody else. The best version of yourself. Every day we're working towards that. Some days we're going to fall short. Some days we're going to give up. Some days we're going to have pain and challenges. But we have tomorrow again to try to be amazing again, to be the best version of ourselves and be what we're called to be. So I love sharing that. So I would love for you to have that. I don't know the testimony of the name of your line, but I just think your name and the meaning is beautiful and has impact.
Oh, thank you. Definitely appreciate that. And I would definitely take that into consideration. I actually never even thought of naming my clothing brand
I'm sure
after.
whoever gave you that name was
Really.
intentional about it.
Yeah. Special delivery. It was a very special delivery. Most definitely lived up to my name. That's why I got it. So, yeah. All right. Just want to say thank you so much for blessing the podcast with your presence. I would love to have you back once that book is launched, or we can just depending on when this actually airs, and if the book is out, then I can just get a video and then insert it in so it's up to date. But thank you so much, and yeah, anything else to say?
For the opportunity. Have an amazing day, and I wish for you to go forth and be your most amazing version of yourself and overcome fears, doubt, procrastination, and any challenges and barriers that you have. Go forth and keep killing it, keep growing the Black Excellent Club, and you're doing a great thing. So keep going. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right.